Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a question that, well, it touches just about everyone, doesn't it? Whether you've lived it yourself or, watched friends or family grapple with it, it's one of those really big life decisions. Feels universal, but also incredibly personal. The core question, right from our source material, should adult children live with their parents after they turn 18 or not? And it's definitely not just a simple yes or no. What we've been looking at shows it's really deeply tangled up with personal growth, family ties, and just what society expects. The material really pushes us to look at the necessity aspect, like do adult kids need to live at home? And then there are these fascinating cultural differences. The source specifically mentions India versus Western countries. Plus, the basic pros and cons.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how this seemingly straightforward question just opens up this whole world. You've got cultural context, economic realities, purely individual circumstances. It's one of those topics where personal stories often bump up against these bigger trends and, well, societal norms. So yeah, this deep dive, we're aiming to clarify some of those varying perspectives, shed light on the different factors involved, sort of move beyond just gut feelings to a more, let's say, informed understanding.
Absolutely. So our goal for you, the listener, is really to give you a shortcut, a way to understand the different sides of this topic. We want to cut through some of the noise and really get a handle on the underlying complexities and things to consider. Okay, so let's jump right into the core of it. One key thing that came up in our analysis is this idea of necessity. Is it necessary for adult children to live at home? And that idea, it isn't fixed, right?
Yeah.
It seems really heavily influenced by economics and cultural norms. Often when we talk necessity, we immediately think money. Crushing student debt, rents that are just, wow, through the roof, tough job markets. For a lot of young adults, moving out isn't just a hard choice. It's flat out impossible financially.
Indeed. And if you zoom out a bit, it becomes really, really clear that these economic pressures are just a massive driver. For some, staying home isn't really about preference, it's just pure practicality. It gives them this crucial financial buffer, right? Lets them save maybe for a down payment, pay off loans, perhaps invest in more education, all without that immediate stress of rent and bills piling up. But here's kind of a critical thought to chew on. Does that financial buffer end up fostering dependency, or is it actually a strategic move that enables future independence down the line?
That's such a crucial question. And beyond the money, these cultural differences play a huge role too. You see really stark contrasts, like the source highlighted, between places like India and, say, many Western countries. In much of the West, the story, for a long time anyway, has been about getting independent, moving out around 18, getting your own space. It's often seen as this key rite of passage, into adulthood.
Right. But what's truly fascinating, and where the source really points this out, is that in cultures like India, for example, multi-generational households aren't just common. They're often seen as the ideal. It's deeply rooted in concepts like filial piety, that fundamental respect and care that children show for their parents and elders. So the whole idea of an adult child leaving home at 18 just for the sake of independence, well, it might not carry the same cultural weight at all. It seems less about the individual breaking away and maybe more about the family unit continuing to function together with everyone kind of contributing.
It completely flips the script on what adulting even means, doesn't it?
It really does.
What might look like, I don't know, helicopter parenting or maybe failure to launch in one cultural lens is just seen as family support and filial piety in another. In this cultural contrast, it also helps us understand the pros and cons people talk about with this living arrangement. So, okay, what are some of the upsides that came up?
Well, on the pros side, beyond the obvious financial stuff we just talked about, there can be really significant emotional and social advantages. Things like stronger family bonds, for instance. Just those daily interactions, they can genuinely deepen relationships between parents and their adult kids, fosters a kind of shared community in the home. And then there's the mutual support system, too. Parents might get some help around the house, maybe with technology, whatever. And the adult children have this built-in safety net, right? Maybe some guidance from people with more life experience as they're navigating, early career challenges or big decisions.
Yeah, and it's not just one-way support. Like you said, parents often benefit too. Maybe sharing household chores takes some pressure off, especially if they're getting older, juggling other things. But, okay, what about the flip side? What are the challenges that tend to crop up when adult kids stay at home?
Well, a major one that often comes up is a perceived lack of independence for the adult child. And this can show up in different ways. Maybe limited privacy, friction over household rules,
Hmm.
curfews or guests, or just how the kitchen's kept. Or it could even be perhaps a delay in developing some of those crucial life skills that just come from managing your own place,
Hmm.
budgeting for every single bill, fixing things that break, that sort of stuff. And for parents, while they might really appreciate the company or the help, it can also mean a delayed empty nest phase. And that might impact their own freedom, maybe plans to downsize or travel, or just reconfigure their lives post-active parenting.
And that can be a real pressure point, can it? The very presence of an adult child, sometimes it can kind of prolong those old parent-child dynamics. Patterns that maybe everyone would be better off moving past as the child becomes a fully independent adult.
Yeah.
It seems like it really takes a lot of open communication, setting clear boundaries. Everyone involved needs to be on board, and that's not always easy.
Not at all. It requires ongoing effort.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what we've really explored is this multifaceted question of whether adult children need to live at home after 18. We've seen how the material we looked at pushes us to consider the whole spectrum, all the reasons, all the outcomes, from sheer financial necessity right through to personal development goals. And we've seen how vastly different cultures approach this. That contrast between, say, the emphasis on independence in the West and the deep value placed on multi-generational living in places like India, and how those different viewpoints really shape the practical upsides and downsides of living together.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, I think it becomes really clear there's just no single right answer here, whether adult children live at home or not. The best approach seems to be this deeply personal thing, right? It's like a mosaic woven from cultural norms, individual family situations, definitely economic realities, and of course, those unique personal hopes and dreams, which it really begs a fascinating question for you, the listener, to think about. Considering all these layers we've talked about, the cultural threads, the financial pressures, the personal growth aspect, how do you imagine this whole dynamic evolving for future generations? What fresh factors might come into play then?
That's a great thought to leave everyone with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Definitely keep exploring these kinds of complex societal questions on your own.